Hi, my name is Brittney and I did my presentation on city life. Recently I moved to Boston for the summer for an internship and I thought that this would be a great topic to do my project on due to the fact that it's so recent and new to me. So to begin, one of the most important things is to decide where you're going to live. I am currently in the downtown city area and I find this very convenient because it is super close to everything, all the major attractions, and it is close to my job. So that leads me to my next bullet point, which is how far are you going to be from your job or your school or for whatever you're moving to a city for? This is super important to remember because the main reason why you're moving to the city is probably for this purpose, and you want to make sure that it's not an inconvenience to get there every day. The next thing that it's important is to pick a reliable realtor. When moving into Boston, I had struggled with a few things, and without my realtor, I probably would have never figured it out. So this is also a really great tip because they're there to help you, and this is their job. So you are definitely going to want to read reviews and see how many properties they've sold and things like that. The next thing that is good to take in mind about where you're going to live is cable or Wi-Fi. Do you need it? Do you want it? How are you going to get it? These are some of the things that you need to ask yourself because if your apartment doesn't come with these things, you definitely want to have them set up before you move there. The next thing that is important to remember about moving to a city is what to pack. The main thing is just to prepare for all weather situations. Although the Weather Channel can go ahead on 15 days or plus about the weather's going to be, sometimes it is so irregular and they are wrong that you don't want to underestimate what's going to happen. I would suggest to always bring an umbrella because no matter what, it's the worst thing to be stuck in the rain. Another thing is to bring comfortable shoes. If you're in a city, you're most likely going to be walking a lot, therefore you're going to want to be comfortable when you're doing so. Another thing that I found very helpful of my time up here in Boston so far is to have a map or some kind of app on your phone so that you don't get lost. I've used my phone every day for a map and it's actually helped me learn the streets a little bit better. So I suggest definitely making sure you have this before you leave. The next thing that you should do is just research a few things before you move. What areas are the good and bad parts of town? This is very good to know because you don't want to be walking down a street at night and not understand that you're in the worst part of town. It's also good to know these things by asking locals around you. They can be very helpful. The next thing that you should research is some famous restaurants to eat at. The reason why you're moving to city, who knows what it would be, but I'm only there temporarily, so I'm definitely trying to take advantage of my time here. And that leads me to touristy spots. I've been to Fenway Park, Boston Harbor, the Boston Commons. These are some things to take advantage of when you're in a city, whether you're there for a long time or not. Some people in Boston don't even think it's a big deal to go to Fenway Park, but those that are new to the area think it's a giant big deal. So I just really suggest taking advantage of the area that you're in. The next thing that's important to research is if you're going to be living in the city during a big holiday. For me personally, I'm going to be here for July 4th, so I'm super excited to go to all of the parades, learn more about the history of Boston, and just take it all in about being in a different city for a huge holiday. The next thing to keep in mind when moving to a city is what to avoid. Rush hour is definitely a big one. You do not want to be driving at rush hour due to the fact that it is just so jammed and congested on the highway that it will take you super long to get home. The next thing is dark streets at night. And we've been taught this for a while since we've been little, but this is especially important in Boston, especially when you're moving to a place that you've never been in before, as well as walking alone at night. I've always been told never to walk alone at night, never to get in an Uber by myself at night, no matter what. And that is definitely something to keep in mind because sometimes at night in the downtown city area, it becomes completely dead because everyone goes home from work. Therefore, the homeless people are out in the street sleeping, and sometimes you don't really want to mess with them. Another thing to keep in mind is drivers. They can definitely be crazy. When you're crossing the street, always be aware because they are probably not looking for you. Another thing to keep in mind when you're moving to a city are the locals. Be friendly to them, introduce yourself, ask questions. This is a great way to make friends and find out the awesome places around town to go to on the weekends, as well as maybe some good restaurants, maybe some good movie theaters or grocery stores, or you never really know what you could get from locals, but it's also very good to be friendly to them. They can be super helpful, and I've actually experienced this with some waiters and waitresses that I've gone and been served by. One of the last things to keep in mind is transportation. Figure out how you're going to get around before you move. This is definitely something that should be considered before you pick a place to live, because if you aren't going to be living right downtown in the city, you should be sure to be living in a place that's easily accessible to either a bus station or a train station. You need to figure out if you're going to need a car and how you're going to park it, as well as if you're going to need a bike, you're going to need a bike lock. These are all things to figure out before you get up here. Get up to any city that you're moving to, because it will make your life so much easier if you have everything planned out and you know how you're going to get around before it's too late. Other tips to be aware of: just number one is to save money. City life can be very expensive. Eating out all the time can be super expensive. If you're over 21, going out to different bars can be very expensive. There's so many different little shops around that you're going to want to spend all your money. But personally, I've learned that it's best to just save your money and only buy things that you really need. For instance, groceries. If you would like to splurge a little bit, that's totally fine. But just know that city life is definitely more expensive than other areas in the United States. Another thing to keep in mind is to explore the city on the weekends. Explore the area you're living in. Take it all in. Experience what the locals here experience and why they're living here. For instance, I've gone to Fenway Park, all of the museums. These are some things that are super important to people that don't live in the city even, because I've talked to some people and they have said that Fenway Park to them is not even a big deal. But for me, coming from Florida, that's a very monumental place to go to. So if you're living here temporarily, it's very important to make sure you explore and get the city feel for a little bit, just to see if you like it. Another thing, and I think the most important thing, is to be safe. Always watch your back. There's some crazy people in this world, and as we've seen lately on the news, that is very accurate. It's always good to be safe, be aware, look behind you when you're walking, just to make sure no one's following you, especially at night and especially on the train. If you keep all of these tips in mind, your city life experience is going to be amazing no matter which city you decide to live in.